Welcome to Declutter for Change, the podcast where we clear the visible and invisible clutter from your mind, body, soul, and home to make room for the life you actually want to live and love. I'm your host, Heather Clark. In this episode, we are joined by Ginny Priem to discuss the radical act of unsubscribing from toxic relationships and the identity of overfunctioning. Ginny shares her incredible story of discovering that the man she shared a home with was a complete fraud, and how she navigated the implosion of her life with a strategic precision and grace. Ginny Priem is a powerhouse keynote speaker, TEDx presenter, and best-selling author whose work focuses on leadership, emotional intelligence, and sustainable success. With more than 20 years of experience in corporate leadership, she brings a grounded perspective to conversations about ambition, burnout, and growth. In a culture that rewards constant output, Ginny helps people move forward with clarity, resilience, and intention. Hello, Ginny. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Heather. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. It is, as of this recording, getting warmer and warmer here up in Canada. So I am super excited. I got to go outside yesterday and enjoy the sun. Today, it's pouring, but that's okay.
Oh my gosh, when I listened to an episode, I had a feeling that you were Canadian, and I'm just your neighbor right down in Minneapolis.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Well, hello, neighbor.
Yeah.
How are you?
Hello.
Okay, so I'd like to ask all my guests when they first come on and stuff, just how did they get to the position that they're in, whether it was the coach, whether it was in consulting, anything like that. So let us know, and the listeners know, how did you become, where you are right now?
Completely by accident.
I love it. Same here.
Yeah. So, I had a really successful corporate career spanning over 2 decades, and I thought that was it. Like that, I thought was the only definition of success in my career. I never had any dreams or aspirations to leave and go start my own thing. Like, who would do something so crazy, right? Leave the benefits. And I had a free company car and, the W-2, the 401k, all that good stuff. But when I was in my corporate career, I also ended up in this relationship who I was not interested in dating him because I was single, living my best life, had this corporate career. I'm traveling all the time for work and for fun. And I get introduced to this guy who I call Chad. And I wasn't interested because how good my life was, like I just said, and why mess with a good thing, right? But also he had 2 kids, which made me also not want to get involved with him. Well, spoiler alert, I end up dating him, fall in love, and then I meet these 2 kids and I fall in love 2 more times.
Kids are awesome.
Kids, they're awesome. And they, we kind of form this instant family. And, as things progress, they end up moving in here and life is good. They, spend obviously half the time with their mom and then half the time with us. And their mom is amazing, FYI.
That is
And
huge. Yes.
it's huge. Like, she is just awesome. So they move in here and life is good. I'm still traveling a lot for work. And one day I get a message from a friend as I was coming home from a work trip wanting to urgently meet for cocktails at 10 p.m. on Tuesday night.
Oh my, I'm already in bed at that point. What?
That's what I was like, look, I like a good cocktail or glass of wine or 2. But in the middle of the night on a Tuesday, and this was not that kind of friendship either. Like, this was a friendship where we would do like coffee or yoga or workouts, whatever.
Yep.
So this was very out of the ordinary. And so all day I'm going in wondering what is going on with her.
Yeah. Because you're like, okay, this is out of the norm. Like, something's up.
Yes. And what is going on with her that is so big, so important that she needs to meet for a cocktail in the middle of the night on a Tuesday? And I get there and she's crying, has a stack of papers, empty drink. And I reach across the table, for her arm. And I was like, I've been so worried about you all day. What is going on? And she said, it's not about me. It's about you.
Oh.
It's actually about Chad.
Oh.
And proceeds to display an arrangement of evidence about the man that was at home in my bed. So I, immediately formed this detective wall and I'm like mapping out the dates, the names, the locations. And all I needed to do was prove that one thing was true. And then it was probably all true. And it was. Turns out he was a complete fraud monster in every way. I was in a psychologically, emotionally, financially abusive relationship. And I had no idea.
Holy shit, I'm going to say. Because I'm explicit podcast, so I'm going to say that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. So my life completely implodes. And that was actually the start of everything. And what I realized at that time was I was completely over functioning. I was in this relationship. Like I said, I was the one, I have these, new kids in my life. This wasn't something that I ever saw for myself, but I'm doing the school pickups and drop-offs. I'm packing lunches. I find myself in places I never imagined, like, movie night, instead of, eating grease or eating lobster on the beach in Greece, I'm having popcorn, on the couch on Friday nights. And I'm doing the grocery shopping and the cooking and the laundry, making sure the house is clean and the lawn is mowed. Meanwhile, I have this, big job and I'm traveling all the time. And I was being completely taken advantage of. I was over functioning. I was being everything to everybody else except for myself. And eventually I decided to share my story. And that's the story that I share in my first book, You're My Favorite. All the juicy details. But there should be a second edition at this point because I've learned a lot more about this guy since then, since the book even came to press.
You might have to have volumes to this.
Yes, I think this could be definitely, what do they call a second edition? A second edition of You're My Favorite. So that I wrote that book and published it when I was still in corporate, still not having any idea that my career, my life took a total turn, but I had no idea that my career would take a total turn as well. And about 6 months after the book came out, I started to see the writing on the wall at my corporate job that our division probably wasn't going to make it. So I put together a business plan. I got all my coaching certifications. I did all this while I was still in my corporate job. This is how I was spending my nights and my weekends. I hired a business coach. I hired a speaking coach. I started my podcast so that I had almost this runway when my corporate job ended. And that's how it happened.
Holy, that is quite the story. Like in just the few minutes that we've listened, I guarantee you, I know there's a lot more details to it, but wow is all I have to say. Like to find that out. How old were you when you found this out too?
38. It was approximately November 13th, 2008 at 11:14 p.m. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, we definitely know it was that night. Yeah. What a thing to find out. And to have children and to involve, what creepiness. That's the part where I'm like, oh my God. So how did you go about? Because again, for the audience listening, they're probably still jaw dropped on the ground right now. But how did you even approach him with it? And how did you start to disengage from everything? Because, a regular relationship is hard to disengage, especially when children are involved. I've been there, I'm divorced myself, whatever. But to also have the secondary part of this, where do you even start?
Very carefully, strategically, and quickly. So I had to get him out of my house. I mean, there's no question. So I came home, talked to him, give him very little details. I wanted to see what I could get out of him. And we literally talked for maybe 40, 45 minutes. And he goes, I know this is really important, but I need to get some sleep. And literally went out on the couch and went to bed. And then we actually had the kids that night. It was an unusual night. Our custody schedule was Thursdays to Sundays, but we had them on a Tuesday because the next day we were supposed to be leaving for Washington to go to my nephew's wedding. That's actually one thing I'll never get over. I missed my nephew's wedding over this, and he and I are so close. But I was in no position, and I had to get him out of my house. And I was not in an emotional position to go celebrate love.
Well, I was saying, the mental, emotional, psychological whole thing was just done.
Yeah. So that was a Tuesday night. So Wednesday morning, actually this room was the kids' room. So where I'm sitting right now. So he came down here, got them, hustled them out of the house at 5:15 in the morning. And I hadn't slept. My adrenaline was just pumping. So as soon as he left, I was able to verify some of the evidence that was in the papers that my friend had given me. And I never let him in my home again. I packed up everything that was his, left it in the garage, arranged for him to come pick it up that weekend. And the first thing I did that Wednesday night was, got in touch with the kid's mom. And I called her, and she literally was like, I was afraid this was going to happen. And
So
so
she knew.
yeah, but we've had these conversations. I mean, this guy's a psychopath. I mean, he's a narcissistic sociopath, psychopath, however you want to categorize him. And here's the thing, if she would have come to me, I was being love bombed,
Yeah,
gas,
true.
manipulate everything. And if she would have come to me at any point, and by the way, he tried to keep us apart. He never would have wanted us to sit in a room together. But if she would have come to me and shared, I would have been like, he would have poised her
Would
to
have
be.
convinced you that she was the crazy ex.
She's the crazy ex-wife. She's just jealous. She's obsessed with me, wants me back, right? Like that's what I am, like that's what all of his exes are now. We're all crazy, and if somebody has a lot of crazy exes, what's the common denominator?
Exactly. What's the common denominator? Exactly.
But again, another spoiler alert, she and I and the kids are still very, very close. So we call ourselves a modern family. We go on vacations together. We spend holidays together. Her and I talk every single week. I mean, we probably get together at least once a month. Like, we spend a lot of time together. We are very, very close. And so that's one thing, like, we always wanted to, first of all, kids deserve two parents that love them unconditionally.
Yep.
And I didn't have that. And I feel like this is my opportunity to be able to do that for them. And like, one of them just called me out of the blue a few weeks ago and was like, hey, I just wanted to let you know, thank you for this. Cause I still, help out with things like sports and whatever. Mm-hmm. And they called to thank me for helping out with their sports and just to say how grateful they were to have me in their life. I mean,
yeah, like, it's way to, like, okay, as crappy as this situation was, and a lot of listeners as well get these crappy situations because, again, it's the pile on, the whatever, you have that relationship that does love bomb you. I've been there, had that done. And to know that the kids still to this day, and the fact that you guys are still, talking and with his ex and stuff like that, what a huge, 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 like, weight off your shoulders to, like, because I know you would have felt the guilt. You would have had all that stuff, because that's what we do. We put the guilt on ourselves. No, it's him that should be putting the guilt on him. But no, I guarantee he's just probably moved on to the next one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we know all of his shenanigans, and they just keep getting worse. I mean, he moved to Texas and became a cowboy. That didn't work out. He moved back here. He's almost 50 years old, and he was living with his mom. His mom kicked him out, so now he's living with his sister. Can't keep a job. I mean, the guy is just something else. So yeah. Anyway, but that is how it all began, and why I do the work that I do now.
That is so crazy. Like. And the fact that you had to get him out immediately, so with that, how were you able to, because again, you're emotional, you're completely thrown, this is not the life at all that I thought I was going to do, but I know that I have something to do and it has to get done now. What kept you sane during that chaotic time?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. It took me a while. First I had to kind of gather the evidence, gather the information, and then be really intentional about each thing that I did. So the next thing I did, this is actually kind of funny. People are like, what did you do next? Well, the next thing I did the next morning was I went and got a manicure. Now, hear me out. I was like, hey, my life just imploded. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to go get a manicure. But it was the next thing on my schedule. And I was in such a state of trauma and duress. I couldn't even get my head right. I didn't know what to do. So literally all I could do was just do the next thing on my calendar and on my schedule. And it happened to be a manicure. Now, in hindsight, I've actually had people comment in my book reviews, oh my gosh, how vain is she that the next thing she did was went and got her nails done. It wasn't a conscious decision. It was just the next thing. But in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things I could do for myself in that state that I was in, was literally sit down and have somebody hold my hands for 45 minutes.
Yep. Well, no, and then after that, you said you kept your schedule. You didn't, as many women would do, is burn it all down and, oh my God, woe is me. You're like, nope, I know I have to do things. I know this has, you know what? I'm just going to keep my schedule to keep my sanity. And like you said, like the manicure, heck yeah. Who doesn't like
I mean, I
manicure?
took work off. I was a complete zombie. But then the next thing I did after that was I went and got my tires changed because, you know, you live in Canada, you understand winter and summer tires, right? So I had to do that. And then, you know, then it was just a matter of getting him out of my house that weekend. So got him out that weekend. And I just, you know, kind of did the next thing until I could get my head right and put one foot in front of the other. But things that I did discover along the way were meditation, which before this experience, if anybody would have been like, Ginny, you meditate, I would have been like, no, you go take your cute little pillow and go do your thing. But I actually went on a meditation retreat, and it was life-changing. So meditation is extremely important to me. Journaling, you know, just being really intentional about what I was consuming, who I was surrounding myself with, what I was doing. Like since then, I've incorporated solo vacations, which is so transformative and enlightening. I highly recommend it. It's like you connect with yourself and your experience and being present in the moment in a way like no other. So a lot of different things, you know, to really nurture myself while I was in that healing phase and paying more attention. I think one of the biggest things that I can say is I trust myself now more than ever. And I trust my intuition, because once you ignore your intuition and it was right, you never do it again. And there were red flags that I ignored. And at the peak of actually, when things were so bad, my hair all broke off and fell out. I had abnormal skin lesions, like precancerous skin lesions removed, and I got shingles on my face in my 30s. That is not normal.
And I've had shingles, and I know that those are not fun to have at all whatsoever. But to have them on your face would have absolutely thrown me for sure. But isn't it crazy though, that the body, like you were so stressed and you weren't doing anything about it according to your body. So your body's like, fine, I guess I'm going to show you how stressed you really are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to scream at you. Yeah. So I actually, you can't see because of the lights, but I have a scar over my eyebrow. And my doctor, when I went in, she was like, you're so lucky. Like I worked in the aesthetic space, so I have a lot of, you know, doctor friends, which is great. And she luckily got me in, and she's like, I'm so happy you got in, because where you had the shingles, like my whole face and eye was like starting to swell. She's like, it can make you go blind.
Yeah,
if you
because
don't catch
it affects
early.
your nerves. It's not even just, you know, okay, like chickenpox where it's like, okay, it's surface level, whatever. No, shingles, like the reason why I even found out and caught it early for mine was because it was a muscle. And I was like, oh, why am I so achy there? And then all of a sudden I was like, wait a sec, what is that? I'm like, oh no. And I've had shingles. So I had them at 14 and then I had them at, I think it was like 32, 33 years old as well. And again, when I went in for the second time, the doctor's like, whoa, like this is unusual for you to not just have it once, but twice and at your age. I was like, yeah, I was a little stressed. Like that was literally right after I left the ex-husband. That was, you know, whatever, et cetera. So it was like, yeah, your body tells you. Like, if you're not going to listen to it and you just, you know, as women who just keep going and piling on the stuff and piling on, our bodies are going to yell at us one way or another. Like, okay, maybe we'll make you a little tired. No, you're not listening to that. Okay, maybe we'll get you sick. Oh, no, you're still going to push through. Fine. We are going to debilitate you with something that's going to affect your nerve. Like, that's how much you probably pushed through at that time. And that your body was like, hi, you need to stop now.
Yeah.
Like how, like, that's just crazy. So did you notice anything? So after how long, actually, I'm going to ask is how long did you notice that those things started to dissipate? And then was there correlation to, and did you still have your corporate job at that time too?
Yeah, I was still in corporate at that time. The other thing that happened, like when we split, was like I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep. I lost like 2 sizes, like just crazy. And people are like, "Wow, you look great. What happened?" I was like, "Thanks, it's the trauma." You know, like what, not intentional. Wasn't
Not
trying
intentional
to. Yeah,
whatsoever.
wasn't trying to get this skinny. But that, you know, it took a while. I mean, that's something that and I think healing is ongoing, right? Like people aren't like, oh, I'm healed. You know, it's like, it's not you're not like, oh, I'm grown. Like you're growing, you're healing, you're evolving. And I think I still catch myself in patterns that are, you know, my coping mechanisms and behaviors. But that self-awareness that comes with it is really powerful.
And so as you're healing, as you said, like you're continually healing, because I'm sure there's still like now to this day something, you're doing something, whatever, and it has that reminder. Now, of course, you're still in contact with the kids and the ex-wife. So it helps, I think, the healing with them. That probably helped you, heal a little bit faster, if we're going to say that. But what are some of the things you do when, I hate the word, but everyone knows it as this, when the trigger happens?
Meditation, just like even
Okay.
breathing exercises can definitely help. Like some of my triggers are so silly, like traffic. There's nothing you can do about it. You know what I mean? So it's just like take a breath, take a beat, bring yourself back to the present. I like to keep a workout routine. I try to eat healthy, a lot of the things that I think many of us are doing. Um, and just really paying attention to my thoughts, because like our thoughts create our feelings shape our mood, and our mood becomes our reality. So just really tapping into that self-awareness and trusting myself.
Yeah, and that's huge. Like I know there's like we can trust everyone else, but yet we don't trust ourselves. Like how is that? Like so weird that we do that. Or we can let ourselves down before we ever let anyone else around us down. Like it's like, oh, if I'm going to tell, so and so, oh yeah, I'm going to do that. But then you're like, I'm going to go to the gym today. But then you're like, oh, never mind, I'm not actually. And that's why a lot of people do accountability partners, because of that. Okay, first of all, have we had a relationship since?
Not a relationship. I mean, I've dated and I'm open to it. I just like my life is so good. And so, it's not something that I'm seeking. I'm genuinely happy. I think a lot of women that are single will say that they're happy, yet they're kind of secretly looking for somebody. That's not me. Like, I genuinely love my life. I love being single, and I loved being single before. So this isn't a new thing that like, oh, he ruined it for me. I loved being single before.
Yeah.
So I'm just in like such a good place. So I've not had a long-term relationship since him, but I've definitely dated.
Okay. Very cool. Now, did you find it when you were dating, like that your radar was a little more in tune, like to like the
Absolutely. Yes.
crap? Yeah.
Yeah. I used to say I had a broken picker. So yes, I think I fixed my picker. But I think I dated too soon, and that was part of the problem. Someone kind of forced me, which sounds silly, but like kind of pushed me to date way too soon, like before I was ready. I think if I would have waited a little bit longer, for even just like going out on that first new date with somebody, I would have been in a better place.
Mm, very cool. Very cool. So when the listeners are listening, as they are, and they go through their own chaos, they're going through like somebody's probably like, I got love bombed too, and I did that, and I love my, space and stuff like that. But do you have some advice for them if they are, they absolutely love their life, they love whatever, but they're wanting to maybe explore, and what kind of things to look out for in themselves when they are looking to explore the dating realm, or, anything like that?
Oh my gosh, this is such an important topic to me. It's actually a lot of what I focus on my YouTube channel about is narcissism, toxic relationships, healing.
Mm.
So I
Mhm.
have I think my YouTube channel, I don't know, it's like 3.2 million views. So there's a lot of content on there that you can kind of dig into. But I think paying attention, like the first thing is if something feels too good to be true, it probably is.
Mm.
If you're like, I remember, like our first date was so over the top. We went to like the nicest restaurant in Minneapolis. Then he got us tickets to U2. It was just like everything was over the top. And so like that grandiosity, pay attention to that. Pay attention to if you have like butterflies in your stomach. Is
Mm.
that a good
Mhm.
thing, or is that your body actually alerting you to something being off? Um,
Yep.
there's just, like again, if things don't add up, they probably don't add up. So just really being, honoring yourself and paying attention to the things that you're noticing.
that, like, I know for, like, well, I have a daughter and she's got a boyfriend, but even before this, it was, if you have butterflies, I'm like, please always pay attention to your body. Your body will tell you before your brain can actually process what's going on. I said, so if you're having those, like, the butterflies, the, like, I said, hold off and just think, okay, logically speaking, because again, I've taught my kids logic, and she's 14, by the way. So she understands all of these bigger topics, but it's a, don't rush into it. And again, if it's too good to be true, especially from the beginning, like, that's the thing. I was like, oh, there's just like, because I've had that where it's like the over the top, I'm like, dude, like, calm down. Like, this is just to get to know each other type thing. So I say to her, like, and same with the listeners listening, if you are, wanting to get into a relationship again, or wanting to do something with another person, and we're going to use women to men at this point, or women to women, because there's are also narcissistic women as well. But it's listening to that body, and we so ignore that so many times, and I don't understand why that is, because I know I've ignored mine multiple times, and then all of a sudden I'm like, I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, you knew. You knew.
Yeah. If it's too fast, right? If it's too fast, if they're trying to rush it, they're trying to get you hooked before you can really see who they really are. And I work with psychologists and psychotherapists from all over the world on this topic. So this isn't just me. Like, these words are thrown around really flippantly. This truly comes from a deep understanding of narcissism and the toxic dynamics that come along with it. Healthy relationships should feel a little bit boring. Like, if it's super passionate and it's like sparks are flying everywhere, that's great for a one-night stand. Like, if you want to go get your rocks off, totally fine. No judgment, right? Like, that's a really great person to maybe do that with. But stable should feel calm. It shouldn't feel like fireworks. Especially right away. That can happen, but that should grow with time through a deep connection.
Well, and it's to get to know them, because first of all, when you're first meeting, first dating, and it is that, like, oh, fireworks, the connection, what are you really connecting to? Literally, you're just probably connecting to the physical aspect of them, which, like you said, hey, knock your socks off type thing. But when you really get to know the person, that's when the admiration turns into the love, which turns into the, stronger and stronger. So over time, like you said, now, of course, you hear all of these, stories of couples that got married within like the first week, whatever. I'm like, whoa, like, what? I was like, there is not a chance that my brain would have been able to even process who I'd be like dating, let alone marrying them within a week or two or a couple of weeks. Now, mind you, I know a lot of people that they still are married years or decades later, but that's an anomaly in my eyes.
Yeah.
Like, I could not even imagine. But is there something now that you are on the other side of it, now that you have, again, loving your life again, doing all that stuff, you still have contact with the ex-wife and the kids and stuff, looking back on it, was there a particular or a few particular instances that you're like, oh, I really, I should have listened to myself then, and I probably would have been a little more like observant or like accepting of what was going on?
For sure. Yeah. And I mean, I very vulnerably and openly share all of those stories in the book. And the biggest one is when I got shingles on my face.
Yeah. Okay. Yep. And then, so for any of the listeners, what were some of those things? Like, yes, okay, the physical part of it, but was there anything like emotionally, or you found yourself like more short-tempered? Or I know a lot of when something goes wrong, that is the most minuscule thing, it becomes the biggest thing. And it's like, it's not because of that, it's because of what subconsciously I know is going on. Did you find yourself in that situation as well?
I used to be a really reactive person. And it's because I had endured narcissistic abuse basically my entire life. And the reason why I picked him is because the patterns and behaviors were familiar from my family of origin. So that was a big aha moment for me. But I was like, my coping mechanisms were people pleasing, perfectionism, wanting to, because you're looking to, all I wanted was to be loved by both of my parents. And my dad was amazing. He was my guy. He unfortunately passed away 5 years ago. But you're constantly seeking to do really well at everything, be the best at everything so that you get approval. And for me in this relationship, it was a lot of trying to make sure that everything, like looked perfect to the outside. And it did. We looked like the perfect little family unit, literally like, the family with 2 kids, 2 dogs, the whole thing. And I was constantly just trying to make sure that he was happy and that the kids were happy, even if it meant at the expense of myself. And I think people thought that I was really happy because I was thriving in that environment because, that's like my Super Bowl, right? Like taking care of everybody else. Like I thrive in that
But not only that,
environment.
but you are a very, motivated, very, successful, very like that is part of an identity that, a lot of the listeners hold too is no, you're going to put me in this role. I'm going to thrive in it, even at the expense of my health, my like whether it's the mental, the emotional and stuff. That's what a lot of women do. And it's getting to the point before that, before you affect your health. That's where I'm trying to get the listeners to be like, oh yeah, I need to start listening to that as opposed to pushing through like I normally would.
Yeah. It's all those things we talked about. I mean, if you feel like something's off, it probably is. Like trust your gut. If it's screaming at you, if your body's yelling at you, pay attention. Even if it's you get a headache every time you are going to see this person, whether it's a romantic, friendship, family member, if you get a stomach ache, or if it's your job, right? Like if you get a stomach ache every morning on the way to work, probably a sign that something's not right, right? Like if your body
You
is
might need a
telling
plan
you,
B.
yeah, you might need to look at your options. So I think there's a lot of different ways it can show up. I can, I can speak to the ways that it showed up for me, but I think there's a lot of other ways too.
Oh, for sure. Like I know for me, like, again, I lived the perfect life. I was married. We had the house, we had the older son, younger daughter, we had the, great job, management, et cetera, et cetera. Like you had government on base job and everything. And it was like, I made sure, like you were saying earlier, that things looked great from the outside. Like when people came in, when they visited, oh, this is great, this is fantastic, whatever. Meanwhile, I was losing myself like constantly again and again. And I didn't catch on to it until it became a in my face, in whatever, this isn't what I wanted. This is what am I doing, whatever, et cetera. And then that's when, I left because I was like, this is not it. I don't know what it is. And it had taken me years after that to figure out what it was. And I had done so many things. Like you said, like I've done the meditation, I have done the sound healing, I have done like I have a list of things behind me of all of the things I have done, which is why I started bringing people onto this podcast, because I was like, I've done these. I know how impactful they are, but I need people to talk about these things in their expertise, because for me, if it, affected me as well as it did, I know it can affect my listeners as well, which is why, like I said, having you on to talk about these things, to understand that, listen, you have to put you first. And when you do that, then you can actually have your whole entire body agree with you. Yes. We don't get sick. We don't get that stressed. Yes. Is there like our every day is going to have stress? Of course. But it's managing that stress. It's doing things for you that actually help it as opposed to hinder it. So on this, I'd like to I do it with every podcast, and we do so my whole entire business and my whole thing is the decluttering of the mind, the body, the soul, and the home. And you cannot do one without doing the others. You cannot, declutter your home without affecting your, your body, your emotions, your mental state, and your soul and stuff like that. So what tips do you have for our listeners today in each one of those categories?
Oh, this is so fun. This is like my bread and butter. So mind, body, soul, and home.
Yep.
Okay. So for your mind, and we can actually, like, I love that you've got kind of these 4 pillars. My unsubscribe filter has 4 pillars. And I was thinking about it and going, okay, I think that we can almost apply one in each category, but like, I could probably give too many examples. So for your mind, what I said earlier about your thoughts create your feelings shape your mood, and your mood becomes your reality. One of the things I do, so the primary thing that I do as my business now is keynote speaking. And one of the exercises that I do is I have people say to themselves a negative, like we all have these negative self-talk tracks, right? And I have them say that, like, close your eyes or look down, and I have them say that thing to themselves. And you can literally feel the air and the energy get sucked out of the room.
Oh, 100%.
And then when they open their eyes, I say, okay, turn to the person next to you and say that to them. And they all go, like, gasp, like, I would never say that to the person next to me. And I'm like, I'm just kidding. We're not going to do that. But if you wouldn't say it to the person next to you, or to cute kid, or my beautiful dog Francine, which you better not, then why do you say it to yourselves? And so for the mind, I would just encourage you to swap those negative thoughts for something a little kinder. And I want to be realistic here, because if you constantly tell yourself you're ugly or you're fat or whatever, whatever it is, or I'm so stupid, or you name it, it's not realistic to be like, I'm skinny, I'm beautiful, I'm brilliant.
Because then your brain just goes afterwards going, no, you're not.
You're not going to believe it, right? So try something 10%, 20%, 50% kinder, and kind of swap that thought that you tell yourself in your mind and try it. And when we do it in the sessions, you literally can feel the energy lighten in the room. And then people have smiles on their faces. What you tell yourself matters more than you think. And your voice is the loudest, most frequent one you hear. So please pay attention to
and
what
you can't get away from too.
Yeah, exactly. So mind, body. I mean, so body, I think, especially as women and high performing women, we have this all or nothing mentality. Well, if I can't work out for 60 minutes, I can't work out for 60 minutes today, might as well do nothing.
Yeah.
Right. Or, I'm injured and I can't run, so I can't do anything. Well, can you walk? Yeah. If high intensity interval training isn't working, can you do something more gentle like yoga or stretching, Pilates, something like that? Or if you can't do 60, can you do 10 or 15? Just kind of being a little bit more gentle with ourselves. Like, two things can be true at the same time. Everything doesn't have to be black and white or all or nothing.
Yep. I wish you had told me that about 20 years ago, because I was all or nothing back then for sure.
That it's such a thing. Like, I think I've become so much more gentle with myself in that regard. Or the same thing when it comes to food, right? Like, I had a slice of pizza, I might as well eat the whole thing. Or, like, I ate bad yesterday, so I might as well eat bad today, right? Like, you can just have a clean slate and eat the damn pizza, but then eat a salad tomorrow. Yeah, whatever that looks like for you. So I think for our bodies, that's a huge one. I think for our souls, I love to honor my dad. He had these things I call dadisms, not to be confused with a dad joke. They're both poorly timed and well-intended, but dadisms were not supposed to be funny. So I think for your soul, I think that's something that is different for everybody. But one of his dadisms was, you're only as good as the company you keep. And what I like to encourage people to do is to treat your time and energy just as valuable of an asset as you treat your money. We all know the concept of money coming in and out of our bank account. Feels really good to get a deposit, and it's a little painful to get a withdrawal. But I call this your emotional bank account. And paying attention to the company you keep and the people you're spending your time around. If they are an energy vampire and they suck the energy out of a room and you drain your energy faster than a bank account or like a bank teller thing, whatever that thing is, like, pay attention to that. Surround yourself with people that you both leave feeling good, or at least, there's some balance, not the people that are constantly draining it. So I think that's really good for your soul.
Perfect. I love that one. And yeah, it's huge. Like, who you surround yourself with makes a huge difference. Like, my children have learned that throughout their years, even like just, who you surround yourself with. Like, if you're going to surround yourself with motivated people who, yes, they can't do the 60 minutes in the workout. They're like, you know what, let's just do 10. Let's just do 10. And they motivate you to just do the 10 to keep up those are the people you want, as opposed to be like, forget it, let's not do it today. And you know what? Tomorrow I'm too busy anyways. Then you become the average of that too.
Yeah. Well, and then the home one is so fun for me because I love like home decor, interiors, and like I'm a very organized, but mostly organized person. Sometimes things are like my accountant last week when I went to my tax appointment, he probably would have been like, "You are not organized." I'm like, it's organized chaos. But
Love that.
I actually talk about, there's an example I share in my newest book, Unsubscribe: Why Letting Go is the Secret to Getting Ahead, how my stylist organizes things, right? So when she comes in and we do a closet overhaul, it's like all of these different piles, right? Like, so it helps you really kind of declutter and stay true to who you are. Because if you have a closet filled and that's overflowing, you can't even see things, it's not a true reflection of who you are, right? And if you're hanging on to things that are from that old version of you, or you're trying to wait till you fit back into it, like, what are we doing here? And so I think sometimes one of the rules that I've applied is if I get something new, it's got to replace something.
Yep.
So
One in,
something's
one
got to
out.
go, one in, one out. But honestly, sometimes just like organizing your junk drawer in your kitchen is so satisfying. So like, and that is a way, that is actually something it's self-care, right? Like if it helps you feel good and like that release and like unsubscribe from those items feels good, congratulations. Not everything has to be extreme, like these big overhauls. It can be, pick one little thing that feels good to declutter in your house, whether it's your closet, the junk drawer, whatever that looks like. For me, my big unsubscribe for my home was getting Chad out of it, right? Like immediately I was like, I want to reclaim.
That is probably your most successful decluttering ever.
Ever. And I literally just wanted to reclaim my space, and I Palo Santo'd every corner of this place, like get the energy out. Cause like sometimes it is energetic in your space.
Yep.
Right. So that was a big thing for me.
That is huge. And that's the thing. So like when we talk about, like you said, like even if it's just a junk drawer, sometimes when we cannot organize or declutter the mental, the emotional, and like the soul part of it, I say then start with the physical. Start with the physical, because sometimes that just the hand to the physical item and removing it allows other things to come through. And I know it always does, because anytime I do this with anyone, like locally or online, that's exactly what happens. They're like, oh my God. Or what ends up happening is they go and touch something and they're like, oh. And I was like, oh, what? And then they go, oh, this was actually from that past time, blah, blah, blah. I said, okay, cool. Are you good to let it go? Yeah, I want to let it go, but it's just, and then that's when the emotions come up. That's when the mental part of it, that's when all this, like the self-talk comes through, and we're like, now that's what we're dealing with. You're now ready because you let go of that. We can talk about that. So if listeners are listening and, you just get to that junk drawer, start there. I literally did a challenge, last year and the beginning of this year and stuff like that. It was just a junk drawer because I was like, listen, it's an easy win. It's an easy win. 9 times out of 10, there's nothing really in there that is too emotionally attached. So yeah, that's a win.
I did that at the end of last year. I thought I needed to buy all new socks, and I just went and organized my sock drawer, and I was like, wow, I have a lot of socks. Don't need new socks, right? So sometimes it creates awareness too when you actually, apply your principle of decluttering. It made me actually see everything that I had way more clearly.
Well, and that's awareness with everything, whether it's the clutter, whether it's this stuff inside of us, awareness of that Chad was not so stable himself. That awareness brings such a huge, huge impact in our lives. And that's when we can go, is this really what I want? If not, then it's time to let it go. And bye-bye, Chad. Is there anything as we end that maybe you're like, oh, I really wanted to, the listeners to know this. I really want this to be, whether it's a quote, whether it's something that you're just like, I just need this to be said. Is there anything that you would like to leave the audience with?
Maybe another dadism. His Perfect. Most famous, you are the architect of your own destiny. And of course, as a kid, I was like, what does that even mean? And so I've put my own interpretation on it now, especially after everything that I've been through, losing him, going through this situation. We can't always control what happens, but we can control how we respond.
Yeah. Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. And absolutely, that is probably the biggest thing that we have. Like, it's how you respond. It's how you react to the situation, because 3 people in the exact same situation have different reactions, and it makes a difference. So thank you so much, Ginny, for coming on. And don't worry, we will have all of her links to the book, to her podcast, YouTube channel, all that stuff will be in the show notes for the listeners. And thank you again for coming on.
Thank you.